this series, Who on Earth Was Jesus? Over the past few weeks, we've looked at how God, right from the time of Abraham, was working to restore the relationship that had been broken between him and Adam and Eve. And last session we said how in Jesus, both God and humanity were completely joined as one. And all of history up to that point had been leading up to this. This week I want to focus on Jesus showing people who God was and how they could have a relationship with him. Now, toward the end of John's Gospel, we read this: Jesus performed many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not recorded in this book. But these are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. That's in John chapter 20. So the stories that John tells are deliberately chosen to show us who Jesus was. I'm going to look at those stories this week. And the first one is that Jesus and some of his disciples attended a wedding. Now it seems it was possibly a family wedding because Mary was there, and Mary seemed to be in the know of what was going on behind the scenes. Today our weddings focus very much on the bride, and it's the bride's family who invite everybody and provide the wedding. But back then it was the groom, and the groom would choose his bride, and then he would send invitations out to all his family and friends saying, I have a bride, come and celebrate with me. And he would provide everything for the celebration. Perhaps one thing to note about this story is it's a wedding feast. So John starts with a wedding feast because the wedding feast is often used as a picture of the kingdom of God. But in the stories of the kingdom, the bridegroom is Jesus. However, here he isn't the groom, but he is about to transform this wedding feast. The wine ran out. It would have been a terrible shame to the family. And Mary went to Jesus and she said, look, the wine has run out. She didn't tell him what to do, but she did say to the servants, she said, look, whatever he tells you, do it. So there were water jars at the entrance, 6 of them, and 6 is actually known as an imperfect number in the Jewish understanding, filled with water for the ritual washing of hands before people ate. And Jesus said to the servants, take those jars, fill them to the brim with water, and then take some to the head waiter and let him taste it. Now, I don't know, but I think that the servants might have been a little bit worried about this. They had no idea what was going to happen, and they can imagine the head waiter really growling at them and saying, what are you doing bringing me water? You're supposed to be bringing wine. But when the head waiter tasted the wine, he found that it was a gold medal Shiraz. Now the servants must have been blown away because they had filled those jars with water. The bridegroom probably had no idea of what had been going on, but when he was asked why he left the best wine to last, he seemed to be quite happy to take the credit for it all. Not only was this wine an excellent quality, but it was in an amount that no wedding feast could ever have drunk in a week of feasting. So what's it saying? Well, there's the human side of the story, that Jesus didn't want to see this family put to shame by having the wine run out. But if we think of the fact that it was the groom's responsibility to provide the provisions for the celebration, in this story, it is actually Jesus who's providing for the celebration. And not only is he providing something far superior, but in an amount which is beyond what could possibly be used. Those servants had simply acted in obedience. They did what they were able to do. They filled the water jars with water. And they were to witness the amazing thing that happened, the miracle, the power of Jesus over the forces of nature. But this miracle has a point. It shows us that Jesus comes to transform the ordinary life into something far better and something the greater abundance of grace that will never run out. That water for the outward washing of hands with the imperfect number of 6 became the wine that brings joy.
Down the mountain the river flows, and it brings refreshing wherever it goes. Through the valleys and over the fields, the river is rushing and the river is here. The river of God sets our feet a dancing. The river of God fills our hearts with cheer. The river of God fills our mouths with laughter, and we rejoice for the river is here. The river of God is teeming with life, and all who touch it can be revived. And those who linger on this river shore will come back thirsting for more of the Lord. The river of God sets our feet a dancing. The river of God fills our hearts with cheer. The river of God fills our mouths with laughter, and we